Hey, Brian here from LCS. Thanks for checking out my channel. And this video, why I stopped collecting comic books for over 25 years. So stick around after the intro to find out why. So let's jump right in. But before we do, I would really appreciate if you would consider subscribing to the channel, and so you can get the latest updates. You can also hit the like button, and love to hear your thoughts on the video as well. So drop some comments below. That really helps grow the channel by having the like button smashed and additional subscribers, and feel free to share the video as well. So appreciate if you take the time to do that. But let's jump right in. Let's talk a little bit about why I stopped collecting comics for over 25 years. So I started collecting in my teenage years. 1983 was really the first year that I started regularly collecting books. And I collected for almost 9 years, so stopped right around 91. So, prior to being even able to drive, I was collecting books, and then in my early 20s, stopped. So this was, mid 80s, when there were 12 issues a year, one published a month and an annual. There were, this is before many variant covers or no foil covers. I think the hologram covers popped up around the early 90s, maybe 92. It was a pretty straightforward, collecting. There were no, 50 different covers of a single issue to pick up. None of these, tricks to entice readers and drive cost up with, multiple books. There were some gimmicky things that were done back then. I think we're all familiar with the Amazing Spider-Man title that has tattoos in it. There were posters, there were pinups that were included in books. Trading cards, I think, came later as well. There were also a number of crossover and tie-ins. Secret Wars was a series that was released in the 80s, and they had a number of crossover titles, so the story continued or tied in other books. And there were limited series too. We had a lot of 4 issue limited series. Wolverine, I think, started that. There was Black Panther, Beauty and the Beast, Cloak and Dagger. I mean, there was a number of them. So a little bit different comic book landscape back then. And you could actually buy comics at the your local 7-Eleven. Before I was driving, I could walk to my local convenience store, 7-Eleven, and pick up books. They were there every month. And you get the newsstand editions, and a lot of times they were in pretty good pretty good shape, pretty good condition. I also bought from my local comic book shop as well, and my LCS. There was one that was located by a big shopping mall, and I was able to before I was driving, I was able to take the bus there and go pick up comics. But again, the comic shop was pretty straightforward. Like I said, not a ton of variant issues, on the wall. So it was pretty, easy to stay on track for, what you were collecting. And I'm a Spider-Man fan. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, always have been. Growing up as a kid in New York, having a superhero that, was living in Queens, and, that storyline hooked me as a kid. So when I started collecting, it was Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and then in the 80s, there was a few additional series. So Web of Spider-Man. Then there was the Todd McFarlane just Spider-Man series. And like I said, I collected like Secret Wars and some of the other limited series and some tie-in books that were associated with those. But so that run from '83 to like '91, there were some key Spider-Man issues. 252, obviously, where the black suit, the symbiote, was revealed. First appeared in Secret Wars, so I had the Secret Wars series and saw that there. It was issue 300. 298, 299, 300 of Amazing Spider-Man. Again, some great covers and some really high value books these days. So, there were, at the time I was just collecting to read the story. I would read, big, like I said, Spider-Man fans would read the storylines and really didn't have an idea of, grading or, collecting for money. It was really collecting for, the storyline and the characters. So, I did bag and board books. I did keep them in a long box. So I did do the right things with those books, along the way. But I stopped collecting in my early 20s. And I look back and try to determine why. I think it was just really simply because life got busy. Early 20s, in college, social life's kind of picking up, and so my free time had to be divided, and comic books weren't the priority. So that's really it. It just my priorities shifted. I got busy, and then later in my 20s, you get married, starting a family, and it just was never really a priority to go back to the books that I loved as a kid. I've kept up to date with the movies, yeah, obviously MCU and some of the earlier Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and things like that. So I've been involved with it, but just not regularly purchasing and books, comic books, and collecting them. Luckily, I did keep. So I had probably almost three full long boxes. So almost 900 comics that I kept from those '80s, and just 2 years ago, I started to get back involved. I had moved some stuff around the house and finally found the comic books again and pulled them out and got them. Kind of started going through them and see what issues I had, and started looking at current values of those books, and saw some really key issues in there, and that kind of sparked my interest again to get back into collecting and seeing on what was going on in the comic world, and really a lot had changed over that time span. Like I said, the variant covers and just the amount of comic books that were being produced by all of the studios, DC and Marvel, and then all of the other Image, Dark Horse. I was aware of Spawn, and I knew McFarlane had left, and so I kind of had all of the some of the background of the changes, but was really really surprised to see how the comic books had grown, just the amount of titles that were being published, and the artwork was still great, and just the number of local comic shops too. There was one that I would go to every so often over the years, but did a quick search of my local area, and there are a lot of I'm lucky that I have a lot of LCSs in my local area. So kind of dove back in, started picking up books weekly at my LCS. Probably about a year ago, I finally set up a pull list because I'm still finding it hard to get to the shop every Wednesday. And so, kind of, head first, jump back in, and now I've kind of, learning, sent my first books out to be graded, which, I'd never done. I didn't even know, I don't even think I knew it was a thing back then, that you could have books, graded. And I took a look at eBay and some of the sales that were happening there, and started, moving some of the books that I had, selling some books on eBay. And that's, why you see some of my weekly videos about comic books that I sold on eBay. And then I even started to source books from other, places, yard sales and Craigslist, and even other books on eBay. So I really have gone from, casually collecting in my teenage years to not collecting for over 25 years, and now really kind of jump back in full force. And then obviously I found a number of YouTubers that are, chronicling their comic books and news and information. So I've been going down the YouTube rabbit hole now for the last year or so. There's so much good information out there. But again, back to why I stopped collecting for over 25 years was really, there were just other priorities in my life, and that's okay. I don't, don't worry about the books that I've missed. There's plenty of books out there. I can always pick them back up. Yeah, maybe at a little bit different cost than I could have if I picked them up at cover price on the at my local 7-Eleven or LCS, but that's okay. And I had to learn a lot more about Spider-Man. I mean, a lot has changed in the Spider-Man universe, with the multiverse and just the different Spider-Man characters now, all new to me. It was the Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, all just Peter Parker. So a lot to learn and catch up on over the last couple of years now that fully being back into the hobby. So and that's for me it is a hobby. I still regularly collect the titles I like to read, and then sure it has turned into a little bit of a side hustle now, trying to collect on sell books on eBay, and some maybe even some speculation of trying to find out what are the hot books, or any new covers or first appearances, things like that. So I mean that's pretty much it. It was I don't think I regret not collecting over those years. I had a good base of comics that I still have with me. And it's interesting now to jump back in, after so many years, and try to catch up on everything that's changed. So yeah, I think that about wraps it up. So like again, I appreciate you guys checking out my channel and my videos, and I'd hope you consider subscribing, liking and commenting and sharing. I'd love to hear your feedback. So thanks again. We'll see you next time.